Hello all you adorable fluff butts out there. It's time again for another rant from an old-ass furry.
Get off my lawn!
Whoops. Wrong kind of rant. Oh well. Today we're going to be talking about an issue in the furry community that has long been overlooked by most. That's right. I'm talking about the plague of accusations that's been haunting this community for a long time now. See, we've come to a point in our history where, as a community, we've stopped really caring as much about the hate thrown at us from outsiders. It's like we've become so addicted to the drama and stress of others hating us that it seems like we've started going above and beyond to create it for ourselves. We jump from scandal to scandal as a community, not really caring if the accusations or rumors are true, for the most part, and without a care to what it does both to others in our community and the community as a whole. Now, a lot of furs will claim that they are partaking in cancel culture for the sake of bettering the community, but what does it really accomplish? From the outside looking in, all anyone can see is how much we all seem to hate each other. In the past few years, there have been so many people accused of so many things that, to those outside of it, our community looks like nothing more than the den of degenerates that we were accused of being so long ago. We were once a community of love and acceptance, where we tolerated each other's differences and opinions, even if we didn't really agree. But now, furry has become a community where fame is won by canceling others, regardless of if there's any truth to what you're accused of or not. There is no better example of this than the recent rash of groomer accusations against high school-aged individuals. People whose only crime was being in a relationship in high school that didn't end well. We see this a lot in situations where an ex wants to hurt their past partner's reputation or even try to harass them into suicide in some petty act of vengeance. The accusers often find themselves lavished with affection from those who accept what they say without question and weaponize their followings in order to harass and attack others. Alternatively, on occasions, the accuser will take what they're doing way too far and wind up being abandoned by their followers or worse, by their friends. Now, a good example of the first would be the case of V Omega and Joni Rue, also known as Fireheart Rue, two high school-aged individuals who were once close friends and perhaps even more. But with just 2 years difference in age, Joni decided to accuse V of grooming them despite the laws in their respective areas, Ontario, Canada for V, and New York City on Joni's part. Now, we've discussed the laws in Canada where age of consent is concerned in another video, so let's move on to New York, where you can legally consent as young as 14 years old if your partner is a minor as well, and from the age of 16 if your partner is no older than the age of 20. I also want to point out that those who make accusations like this seem to forget that there isn't a switch inside of people that gets flipped when a person reaches 18. In most states and in most countries, there are exceptions for those whose age is only separated by a couple of years. Likewise, there are even exceptions in some countries for the sharing of adult material between people of these same ages, provided the material that they're sharing isn't already considered illegal by default. Simply put, a child can't exactly groom another child. If they could, then the vast majority of people would be guilty of it, since the vast majority of people tend to start exploring themselves around their teenage years. Relationships often form and fail. Fantasies are realized or embarrassingly attempted, and people generally get over it pretty easily. This is actually pretty common, and it's how most people learn about themselves and about the world. People tend to learn through trial and error that a bad breakup isn't the end of the world, and consensual sex isn't rape, even if you decide later on that you didn't really want it. I will add, though, that if you become uncomfortable during the act, you do have the right to tell your partner to stop. Now, a majority of the problem seems to be that people have stopped thinking for themselves. There are a lot of people out there that try to convince everyone that they're a victim, even when they're really not, The worst part, though, is that there are people out there that hear this so often that they start to believe it themselves and assume the world is against them. Anyhow, going back to the second kind of situation I mentioned, the best example I've seen for this particular case would have to be Astrid Dragon, who accused another fur of grooming and took things too far. He refused to go through the proper channels and talk to the police in order to get an investigation started. Instead, he decided to go to Twitter and start a harassment campaign that, for one, nearly cost somebody their life, and two, wound up actually putting some of his friends in danger in the process. Now, if somebody legitimately does break a law, alert the authorities and let the law handle it. It helps no one, and actually hinders law enforcement when you decide to put somebody on blast on social media instead of alerting the proper authorities. Now, while grooming has been the most recent rash of accusations on social media, typically aimed at people no older than 20, mind you, it's not the only type of accusation out there. Corey Coyote and his group, for example, had at one point been accused of being pedophiles for various reasons, and some even went as far as to say that their entire gaming group, Damn Dog Games, was secretly a child trafficking ring. Rico Tiger and Dalmy Dalmatian were accused of being part of some criminal ring bent on spreading HIV to the rest of the known world through room parties at conventions as well. Another individual by the name of Peace Wolf was attacked on multiple levels, including people threatening to try and destroy the convention she helped create, all because somebody got triggered about something that her husband had said. The list of people attacked over accusations this year alone has been staggering. But the biggest issue I see is that people are becoming more and more prone to slinging accusations rather than simply talking to people they disagree with. This plague of accusations and the overall toxic mentality of the community has driven away people who, for a long time, were considered paragons of our community. It's sad to see what we've become. No furry should have to live in fear that they might be the next one to fall upon the altar of the outraged mob. None of us should have to worry that somebody we know will become the next target, and no one should have to make the choice whether to stand by their friend or abandon somebody who trusts them to save themselves the frustration of being called an apologist. If we as a community are going to survive, we must remember who we were. We must learn to be tolerant again. We must learn to accept others, and most importantly, we must learn to disagree without baring our fangs at one another.